So good morning and welcome to our 2019, our first edition of Wake Up Newport. I'm Steve Rosansky, President and CEO of the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce. We have a great program here for you this morning, a special guest that I've worked with over the last few months, and he's going to tell us about what he does. But before we get to that, as usual, excuse me, I'd like to introduce some of our dignitaries. Rush Hill, who's normally up here, is vacationing somewhere in the Bahamas or I don't know where. The guy travels more than a plumber does. But, well, hey, you know, he's not here. I can take cheap shots. Anyway, Diane Dixon is with us this morning, our mayor, our newly appointed mayor. Diane. It's her second term as mayor. She's joined the Second Termers Club, right? Good for you, Diane. Our Mayor Pro Tem, Will O'Neill, is with us this morning. Will, back there. Our newly minted City Councilwoman, Joy Brenner, is with us this morning. Congratulations, Joy. Hard-fought campaign, and I think she's going to do an excellent job on our City Council for us. Someone who I worked with on the City Council in my 9 years, Keith Curry, former mayor and City Council member. I see Homer Bludow, our Citizen of the Year last year and former city manager. Next to him is the beautiful Laura Detweiler. I'm not supposed to comment on women's looks, right? But whatever. I'm not PC. I'm like our president. So, no, I'm not. Not at all. Anyway, Pierce Swan from the Irvine Ranch Water District, Director. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect so many people this morning. If you're standing in the back, I told them, well, we only need like 100 seats. So, I mean, it's great to see such a good turnout. So if I miss one of the dignitaries here, please raise your hand. Otherwise, forget it. So, one of the most important persons to me is our board chair, Sam El-Raba, standing back there. Sam, wave. And I'm going to give him a compliment because school, is not back in session, I think, until next week, and we still have a whole contingent of students from Corona Del Mar, FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, right? Raise your hands if you're from FBLA. Any of the DECA kids made it here this morning? DECA kids? DECA, all right, from Harbor High School. So these kids, they're still on break. They didn't have to be here this morning, so thank you for coming. I think it'll be time well spent. Also, we seem to have half of the fire department here, so I'll acknowledge them as well. Our firefighters doing a good job. You know, we had a big fire over at Marina Park during the boat parade on the second floor, and I'm looking across, and I see the boats coming across. All of a sudden, I see this huge fire on Lido break out. And so there's, how many alarm fire was it? 2 alarm fire. Took out the upper floor of a home there. They did an excellent job at knocking it down right away. Watched the whole thing in real time. So thank you to them, and thank you for all you guys do. Excuse me? Question? Okay. All right, so that's all one other person I'd like to introduce. Our guest brought him. Sergeant Major Dennis Turner is with us this morning. He's also with the 1-1 Marine Battalion. So with that, I'm going to bring up Dee Dee. Dee Dee, come on up. She's with the Credit Union of Southern California. I'm not going to add bank onto the end. I think you get more attention when I add bank onto the end. I know. You get more fight time. There you go, Dee Dee.
Good morning and welcome to 2019. Let's hope it's a good year. My name is Dee Dee. I am the branch manager of Credit Union of Southern California for the Costa Mesa branch, which is right across the street from Triangle Square. We are a full-service financial institution, and if anybody needs anything, come and see me. Thank you.
You know, those new car purchases or student loans, any of that stuff, she'll handle it for you. So thank you, Dee Dee. So the one other person I'd like to introduce is our host of the breakfast this morning, Saifan Plutong. She's in the back. Wave, Saifan. So she's a little shy, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what she does. I hope you had some of the delicious food. If you didn't, there's plenty left, so please grab some on the way out because she doesn't want to take it back with her. But Saifan, she has an interesting story. She arrived from Thailand about 20 years ago, and she got here and seemed to get married pretty quick and moved away from Southern California. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but she moved to Florida. But came back, and she's been here in Newport Beach area 15 years ago. She always had a love of cooking and creating things with food, and so through that, she managed to open her first restaurant called True Seasons. It's a shabu-shabu restaurant. She opened it about 5 years ago in Anaheim Hills. I know at least one person here said that he's been here, although I think Pat left. Is Pat still here? No, he left. He's been there, though. He said the food was excellent. And that's when, so out of that, she thought she was going to make a bigger chain, have five restaurants. The first was going to be here in Newport Beach, but she kind of got redirected. She reversed her course, and she actually reversed her chronic health conditions she had through her cooking methods and different ways of preparing food and combining food. And so she channeled that into her latest passion, which is called the Healing Chef. So at her restaurant, she started out just by, selling the food there, or selling food, but she would close down her restaurant one day a week and train people on how they could live a healthy life through healthy eating. And so from that, her business has grown, and so she's actually is now here in Newport Beach with her catering company, and they do events from anywhere from 5 to 500 people. And she also part of her catering business is in-home direct delivery of meal planning and things like that. So you can have the Healing Chef right at your front door. Certainly, I probably didn't get half of it right, but I'm sure Saifan will be here to tell you a little bit about it after the meeting, so please ask her about it. But the food is delicious, and thank you for bringing that. Okay, so now we're going to get into our speaker here. So Lieutenant Colonel Grayson was born in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and was raised in various Air Force installations throughout Europe. He graduated from the Piedmont Bible College in 1998 with a degree in theology. Are you going to be a priest or just? No.
Going to be what's called a missionary pilot.
A missionary pilot. Okay, well, maybe you'll tell us a little bit about. I don't even know what a missionary pilot is. Oh, it says theology missions. Okay, you actually went on other missions, though, as it turns out, which we'll find out about. And he was commissioned in the Marine Corps in April 2001. Lieutenant Colonel Grayson served his first fleet tour at 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, where he serves as commander of a rifle platoon, weapons platoon, and combined anti-armor platoon. That's a CAAT for those in the know. His deployments include platoon security detachment deployment, a deployment to Okinawa that included 3 months as a ship security detachment commander in the Persian Gulf, and 10 months in a Marine expeditionary unit deployment that included combat operations in Iraq. Lieutenant Grayson left the fleet and served with the Tactical Training and Exercise Control Group, 29 Palms, California. During this assignment, he served as the Rifle Company Team Chief, role-playing OIC, and Assistant Operations Officer for the Urban Warfare Training Section. He then attended Resident Expeditionary Warfare School, during which he also attended and graduated from Marine Aviation Weapons and Tactics Instructor course. You can see, especially for the students here, training does not end once you're out of high school or even college. You still got to keep reinventing yourself. It's a good lesson. Lieutenant Grayson served his second fleet tour as both a rifle and weapons company commander in the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. During this tour, he participated in 2 31st MEU deployments and 1 company deployment to Afghanistan. So he was in Iraq and Afghanistan as a training cadre for Afghan police. During his second MEU, the Japanese Self-Defense Force Operation Tomodachi military. In November 2011, Lieutenant Grayson assumed duties as inspector of the instructor Charlie. Okay, I'm not going to read all this stuff because he's just done way too much. What I will say is, though, and most importantly, why he's here, he did assume command of the 1st Battalion, 1st Marines in June of 2018. And he's going to be deploying with his unit or his battalion in this spring. I'm sure he'll tell us where he's going to. He's married. He has 1 son. He likes to hike, as I found out over the holidays. And so with that, I will introduce Lieutenant Colonel Brian Grayson. Forgot to mention, Saifan is also the cover girl of our Business Guide magazine, most importantly.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I can't remember all the offices, but Mrs. Mayor and Mayor Pro Temp, sir, and everyone else who are dignitaries that I should say hello to. Welcome, and thank you for having me here. Thank you, Steve, wherever you went to. Thank you for inviting me. And I just want to spend a couple of minutes and just talk about 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, who's had a phenomenal connection with the city of Newport over the last, since 2003. Foundation was established, the 1-1 Foundation, and we've done a lot of things with them. I've only observed this over the last 6 months. So giving you an idea of what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so you know where I'm coming from. Then I'm going to talk about our battalion and with Sergeant Major, how we basically, the controlling principles of our battalion. Some of it applies to business. A lot of it I got from the business world. And then the third thing is I want to walk through from July to December and walk through what exactly we've done with training and some of the fundraising events and all those types of things that we've done over the last 6 months. So you get an idea, kind of a bird's eye view into a battalion of Marines. So first off, about myself, the bio that he read, basically my dad was an Air Force Master Sergeant. I grew up we left America when I was 3, and I came back at college at 17. So outside of that, I was in New Mexico for about a year and a half. Outside of that, spent about 4 years in England. The rest of it was in Germany. Came to college, squeezed 4 years into 6, and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts. The missionary aviation thing that I spoke of, I started as a pilot, was not a good pilot, was a very poor pilot. So a missionary pilot is basically a jungle pilot. So you have to be able to fix your plane, you have to be able to fly your plane, you have to be able to do all this stuff. So the guys who could, it was about a 50% attrition rate. So I didn't last on that one, along with 50% of my friends. And so the guys that lasted, they're down in the Amazon in Brazil, they're over in Papua New Guinea, they're in a lot of different places. I've got friends all over the world doing that. And basically what they do is you have to do all sorts of things. But basically, when there are things going on with respect to the church, they go out and help supply individuals at the end of the earth, basically. So I just wanted to clear that up since we spoke about aviation. So for myself, let me tell you a little bit about what it's like growing up in Europe from 3 years old, things that you may not think of, and how I felt like a foreigner coming over here, coming back to America, even though I was raised in the military. First off, my culture is the military culture. There is no civilian culture in my background. I grew up as like a son of the government type thing is what I consider myself, because all I knew were military people. I'd never met anyone I don't think I'd met anyone over the age of 65 outside my grandparents, really growing up, Americans. So if I saw an older person, they had to be German, so I spoke to them in German. And that was a rude awakening. Moved to North Carolina for college, and I see a couple of people out on the porch, and I'm like, Guten Tag. And they're like, morning. I'm like, oh shoot, they speak American. They speak really good English, you know. So culture shock there. Culture shock coming to the store and seeing like there's not just 27 different cereals, but there's 27 different styles of Captain Crunch. You know, we had Corn Flakes, Rice Krispies, and Kix, you know, and maybe a couple others. So the way we lived, another cultural aspect that I had was we drove across from North Carolina to Virginia. I was going with my friends to go visit their family, and I'm like, do we need our passports? And they're like, we're going to another state. And I was like, yeah, we're crossing a border. And they said, there's no one, it's just a border. This is all like one country. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I don't need my passport. So the reason I say that is because that paradigm that I grew up in is one paradigm. That is the paradigm of what we call the military brat, right? I'm a Facebook guy because all my friends are all over the world. That's just the way it is, because we moved every few years you move. So I see the world a certain way, okay? Then you come to America and everyone sees the world a certain way. I watch the news, and the news is about various states. And I'm like, isn't anything else going on in the world outside of America? I mean, that's just stuff that doesn't, that kind of doesn't compute with me. Okay, the reason I say that is because you look generationally where we are now. Okay, and this is awesome being in this forum because we have two generations here, right? So you look generationally. I remember back in 1987, 86, 87, my dad worked in what they called computer operations in the Air Force. What computer operations was there were these computers that were about this tall and about that big, and it was a whole computer room, and it had to be cold in the room, and had subfloor. I know most of the people in here probably remember those types of things. And then he told me they're coming up with this new computer. They're calling it a desktop, and I was like, a desktop? And he's like, yeah, it's going to be able to sit on your desk. And I was like, how in the world is a computer going to fit on your desk? You know? So now you move into, you got the desktop, the Amiga 128, you have the Commodore 64, you have all those different types of things. You have the Macintosh with 256 colors. You know, so you have this. And now we're learning, okay, it's not just paper and pen. You're no longer typing just on a typewriter or word processor. Now you're moving into computer age. And now you look now at the cell phone. Now you fast forward. My son was born in 2010. So I want to say he was probably 3. And I'm working on my laptop, and I had an old laptop, and he's like trying to touch the screen. I'm like, it's not a touch screen, man. And he doesn't understand that. He's like, I should be able to slide stuff. You know, he's working the password on my phone. I'm like, how in the world is he doing that? You know, and so starts downloading stuff from the internet. No, so bottom line is, he has never been alive at a time when there have not been computers. I have been alive when there were we thought differently. 20th century. I consider myself a 21st century migrant. I grew up in the 20th century, and I'm in the 21st century. Okay, so, and again, in this room, we have two different groups of people, right? We have those who were born in the 21st century, those who were born in the 20th century. The reason I say that is because as different as it was for me in coming from Europe and growing up in Europe, and then coming to America and having to learn how to be an American, even though I am an American, as different as that is, that's the same way it is from 20th century to the 21st century. So with that, now you look at where we are, and you could consider us like a small business, I guess you would say. We got a battalion is 1,000 people, right? So it's a 1,000-man organization. We have 4 individuals at the top. We have about 6 different units of like 200 people. That math doesn't work. So we have 6 different people, just 6 different units of about 100 and 150 people. But our demographic, I was just talking to our career planner yesterday, and he was telling me our demographic, age 20, we have 25%. So we have 250 people in our organization are 20 years old. Another 25% are between 20 and 24. Okay, so what that does is, one, they're all pretty strong and capable of doing a lot of stuff, but they fundamentally see the world in a different way than I see the world. And I can't change that. Regardless of what I do, I can read all these books about whatever, and I can learn the latest, go on Lifehack or read Tim Ferriss or any of those guys and try to figure out how to do this. But just segue for a minute, look at video games. One of my buddies, he's the regiment one of my buddies, he was talking about playing games with his son. He's playing a video game. Hey, I'm going to spend time with my son. He starts moving around. He does his thing, move from cover to cover, pop, 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 move, pop, 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 pop. And so he's moving from cover to cover just like he does in the real world. And then it's his son's turn. His son starts playing, and his son's like running up walls, flipping over and doing stuff that he does. He's like, that's not even in I never even thought of that. Okay, it doesn't even compute. So the reason I say that is because that's a baseline with Sergeant Major and myself. We understand that is the initial condition in which we have established ourselves as a battalion. That's a fact of life, that we arise from 2 different places. Okay, so how you connect that determines how you can create tempo as an organization. And so there's a couple of things we've done with that. And this goes into, I'll spend like 2 minutes talking about the theory of war and explain how we adjust on that. And that'll give you insight into the way the battalion runs. So long time ago, there was a guy named Karl von Clausewitz, who who wrote the book on war that's the baseline for all Western warfare to date. So he spoke basically his entire book. Basically, this is really simplifying it, but bottom line is you can take war and look at it in three things. It's intellect, will, and chance. Those are the three variables in war. That's it. Intellect, will, and chance. So when we look at problems within the battalion, we look, is it an intellect problem? Do we need to train people? Is it a will problem? They just don't care? Or is it a solution problem? Have we just not figured out what to do about how to go around this? Okay, so that's the baseline of the way we do things. So with that, there are a couple of things that we do. One is the idea of treating people as people. Okay, so if you look at all the skills you're supposed to do, and you look at them as like a pyramid, the top of the pyramid is some of the pictures you're going to see when I start showing the pictures. You're going to see individuals that go and they're going in houses and they're clearing houses. Okay, that's really cool, and you can do it really fast, and you can take care of the bad guys and defend your perimeter and all this other stuff. That's good, but that's only a portion. In the Marine Corps, we talk about what's called the whole Marine. So you're mental, physical, spiritual, social. You're an animal that's not an animal, but you're an individual that is multifaceted. So in an organization like this, this is kind of where we probably diverge from the civilian world, and that is like they bill it with us. When they go on liberty, which is when you go out in town, when you're overseas, they go out in groups of 2, groups of 4, those types of things, right? So all of their life, we look at the entire package, the entire life. And so a person's getting married. Okay, we're getting ready to go to the field. Like we just went to the field for 35 days. We went to 29 Palms, and we just did shooting up for 35 days. So during that, you got someone who has a kid being born. Okay, now what I care is that guy is out there shooting, and he's out there with his team. So 5 years from now, what's going to happen is that family's going to break up, and he's not going to be of any use to the Marine Corps because he's going to be going down a different street. So you invest in the people. You don't just invest in what they can do for you, right? So that's one of our core things that we do is look at the whole person. A lot of you, or some of you probably know, we have a deployment readiness coordinator, and that she's extremely good. She ties in a lot with the 1-1 Foundation and and focuses on doing family events, helping families, putting together different courses that families can go to, different retreats that they can go to. They can be better connected. So it's not just what the bottom line is, it's everything else around it as well. Because if you build the person wants, they signed up. I mean, they saw the commercial and it's like, oh, there's a guy slaying dragons. I want to slay dragons, right? So they want to slay dragons, but you have to take care of the rest of it so that they can, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is a thing called shared consciousness. General McChrystal, when he got out of the military, he wrote a book called Team of Teams. We use that a lot. And specifically, the shared consciousness idea is that everyone understands what's going on within the organization. Everyone understands where we're going as an organization, and we continually do a redraw. So what we think right now is not necessarily what we're going to think 2 months from now. So we go and we constantly redraw. A way we do that is we have different groups, sort of like this group. We have... There's some tactical individuals within the unit, and there are sergeants, so they're 20-year-olds, along with the gunner who's been in for almost 20 years. So you tie those in together, and they talk about tactical events. One of the things they just came up with was quarterbacks use the quarterback sleeve, so they can pop open the sleeve, and they can write their order on there, or they can write whatever their plays are. So all the squad leaders, they're 20-year-olds, they're figuring out, they're like, hey, this is something we need, because now I'm a squad leader, I've got 12 guys out there, and I don't have to pull everything out of my pack. I can see that, and I can execute. So we're going to buy some of that. So that gives us, that's from the tactical side. You have the staff and COs, which are really the vested individuals, right? They're like your middle management. They've been in 10 or 15 years, and they all tie in to Sergeant Major, and Sergeant Major brings them in and works with them, and hey, what's going on? One of the things they came up with was, okay, we're doing hail and bells. Guys come in, so we're hailing them. We're like, hey, welcome to the unit, and we have this we all go out to a restaurant, whatever, and then, hey, people are leaving, we send them away with a plaque, hey, thanks for service with 1-1. Well, one of the things that came up from them was, we do this stuff at 4 o'clock. We worked all week, we've been in the field for 2 months or whatever the deal is, and now at 4 o'clock, you want us to come out here and do this. Why don't we do it at 1 o'clock? Why not? So things like that. So from the whole organization, you have this, everyone kind of pushes data in so that everyone has a voice. And that essentially creates tempo and organization. The third thing is deliberate practice. Deliberate practice, a term, I cannot remember the individual who actually made it up. There's a number of individuals who have written books about it. But deliberate practice specifically being that you have repetitive things that you can do that will, with fine discrimination points, that you can get better at. So you can do an entire attack, but what we do is we break everything down to what they call a one-step drill. And the one-step drill is, okay, it's like a quarterback, we run it kind of like a football team. It's kind of how we run the organization. So you're sitting there on the line, and you're working on the first step, and then you reset. First step, reset, and then you have position coaches, and those are the guys that know what they're doing. Okay, I'm going to take the grenade launcher guys over here. I'm going to take the missile guys over here, and we're going to work just employing the missile. Boom, stop, do it again. That way you can get 100, 200 reps, because it's all about neurological adaptation, right? So if you can neurologically adapt to that scenario, then you become very, very good at that thing, as opposed to just moving through this thing and moving through the motions and saying, oh, that was cool, we shot a lot of rounds, yeah, you didn't hit anything, you know? So those are the three things that we use to kind of move the unit in a direction. Now, what I want to do is walk through this presentation. It's like 20 slides, but they're not, the first slide has words on it, the rest of them are pictures. They have some words on it too, but I just want to talk through what the battalion has done since July. Excuse me. So in June, I took over the battalion, came back from the Middle East in May, and then took over the battalion in June. And in July, this is what happened in July. So imagine this within your own business. The upper management changes. There are only 4 in the upper management. There's battalion commander, there's the executive officer, there's the operations officer, and there's the sergeant major. I'm new. The executive officer was new in July. Sergeant major came in August. The operations officer was a company commander, so he had a 150, 180-man unit, and now he became the operations officer. And the operations officer is just like it would be in the civilian world. Middle management changes. So each one of those little segments, those leaders that runs a 120, 150, 180-man section, every single one of them changed out. Now they have a 2IC, a second in command, who is their staff NCO, so someone who's been in for 15 years. Most of them changed out as well. Battalion staff, so our administration section changed out in September. Our intelligence section changed out in July. Our logistics section changed out in July, and our communications section changed out in July. So essentially, think of your business now. In June, you take over, and all your middle management goes away, all of your upper management goes away, and then all of your major staff goes away, and you're new. So that's where we were in June. And we're facing, in September, we're doing what is called a service level training exercise. And when I say service level training exercise, it's the final thing that we did was a combined arms attack, which means a 72-hour attack in which we had fixed wing overhead, we had helicopters overhead, we were shooting tanks, we were driving in. This is all live fire, right? So if you zig instead of zag, you get shot, you die. So it's all live. So missiles, rocket launchers, 3 different corridors of attack with about 1,400 people. Probably 1,300 people in the offense. So that's where we were. That's what we did in November, middle of November. From this point, this is our starting point. Okay, so some of y'all probably recognize this. In July, we got back. We weren't really into training yet. We started, there's a series of car washes put on by the Newport Beach Foundation that raised money towards the Marine Corps Ball, which you'll see pictures of later on. Then we started, so right then, you have, the Marine Corps is built on what's called the Law of Three, and the Law of Three is that your locus of control is between 3 to 7 people, right? So the Marine Corps is built, you have a fire team, there's a leader, there are 3 guys under him. There are 3 fire teams, that makes a squad, there's a leader over them. 3 squads make a platoon, there's a leader over them. 3 platoons make a company, 3 companies make a battalion, 3 battalion, and there's plus and minus for special weapons and these types of things. But it's based off of that. So we had to build the guys that were in charge of the 3 individuals, because all of those were switching out as well. So this part is specific weapon systems. So the javelin on the far left, that's just getting ready to fire. The second one is some explosives, and then machine gun, and then mortars. So this was the heavy weapon systems. The next one is the actual Marines that are moving through on those 4-man teams. That was July. Now moving to August. In August, we did the Junior Lifeguard Monster Mile. Had some Marines come out. You'll see them on the right. We did this thing called a creek spill. Think of the game of Risk. Basically, you put 2 groups of individuals on the table. This is made by the Prussian Army way back when. We just kind of stole it 100 years later. So you have people on one table, people on another table. You have a director's table in the middle, and they're making decisions. These guys are making decisions. It's double blind. They can't see the board. And then in the middle, you're working out who wins, basically. In the center on here, you see the trophy, which is the helmet. Whoever wins gets a dog tag with their unit put on it. It's kind of bragging rights, and it gets hung by the dog tag. It's car wash. This one is 11 August. This is the final car wash we did over the course of the scenario. If you notice, we have during this car wash, I think you can see on the picture on the far right here, you see, were they police explorers? Police explorers were out there helping us. It was pretty awesome with them tied in with the Marines. It was a pretty good showing. Then we have Bravo Company doing urban operations, military operations on urban terrain. And this particular one is with Sesame. So think paintball. They load up their weapons. You can use your actual weapon, but you put these pellets in there that are like paintball. So kind of pain retains, right? So if you roll through a house and you start getting peppered because you don't have cover, all of a sudden, next time you go in someplace, you're going to feel like, oh shoot, I better get some cover. So they're doing force on force in a kind of paintball type scenario, but using their regular weapon. Then fire team and squad attacks. So once again, in October, we were doing battalion attacks, combined arms attacks. In August, we were doing four-man assaults. That's where we were. So the amount of training that they've done, the amount of time they spend in the field from August to October has been pretty significant, which is why December kind of became a downturn to kind of give them time back with their families. This is the CAT that Steve was talking about earlier, Combined Anti-Armor Team. They have regular Humvees as well, but we have these new high-speed vehicles you can deploy from helicopters and things. And they were just trying to, the goal was to figure out what these things could do. That's you have to be careful on how you say that when you have a couple individuals and you're like, hey, just see what the limits of this vehicle are. You've got 2 weeks. So, so as you can see on the far right, there's some, they were testing the limits. Okay, fire sport exercise. So in here we did 40 fire missions. If you look on the right, that's artillery falling. This is at Camp Pendleton. This is all preparation, because the one thing I didn't say was when we did the combined arms attack, that's also artillery falling right in front of us and then adjusting. So the way we do it is artillery falls, we lift that, and then other stuff comes down. And then you close as close as you can on it without getting shot, and then you lift it so that you have the best opportunity to engage. It's like kicking someone, continuing to kick them until you move to punching distance, and then you can punch them from there. Okay, September we did battalion field exercise. You notice on the right, on the left, they're talking about scheme maneuver. SOM is scheme maneuver. The middle is machine gun section. So you have machine guns set up on the side. Machine guns are shooting, and the other personnel are maneuvering. On the far right, you have mechanical breach. So basically to breach wire, you can do it explosively, you can do it mechanically. He's working mechanically, which is basically takes his little shovel and, he cuts the wire and then takes his little shovel and clears the lane in case there are any mines laid. Okay, this is the other side of this. This is barracks jam we did where we just got a lot of musical instruments, brought it to the barracks, and some individuals came in and got to have a jam session. Interestingly enough, the guy in the center picture in the corner is our chaplain. He's a phenomenal musician. October. So this is the exercise I was talking about. If you look on the top left, you'll see this is a breach. So we're doing night attack. So night attack, everyone's blacked out, everyone's goggled up, right? So there's no lights being shown. And it's full on an entire 40-man, so platoon, 40 individuals with machine guns shooting over top of you. So you can see the tracers going on top of you. So they're shooting on top of you, you're running under that, and then you have to do an explosive breach. So you set it, you move back, explode it, and then you go through. You use what they call a Bangalore torpedo. Once you get through, then you go into the offense and you clear trenches at night under goggled up with guys shooting here and you're moving. Guys are shooting here and you're moving. So what I was talking about the one-step drills is individuals shooting here and you're moving. The issue is this seam right here, right? This is where you're going to get shot. So individuals shooting, you're moving. This angle right here, if you can gauge that angle, that's the thing that matters. It doesn't matter everything else that you do. So we break all that down for deliberate practice and we do this 1,000 times. And then once you get it, you're like, okay, now I got it. Now you can go back and do the entire thing. So that's the best way to use your time. So then, let's see. The center, we just blew a huge breach. And that cloud of smoke that's all from explosive breach. And then they're moving into the offense. Machine guns up top, and then squad move into support by fire. Okay, then we went into the urban, and the urban was a 3-day attack. There was non-fire, and then there was a couple of single-day attacks. So this one over on the top left, that was a non-fire attack. They were just overwatching us with machine guns. And then see-wire obstacles down the bottom left. In the center, you see 81 millimeters, and you see mortars impacting. That's all live fire. So live fire mount, clearing houses, live fire. We only did that during the daytime at this point. And then CASEVAC, that's not an actual casualty, that's just working on it. So these guys are rolling with their kit. Their total kit weighs 45 pounds with their flak jackets and everything. So without a pack or anything. So 45 pounds, and then some guys were just doing fireman's carries, some guys were doing this, depending on where the individual was hurt. November, so now November, it's all fun and games now. So November, as many reps as possible, 10 Marines per unit, 10 minutes. You can do as many as you want. Do you remember what the total was? Yeah, one team did 300. 4x400 relay race, boots and utes. Down in the middle, the bottom middle, this is Sergeant Major's idea. It was a kind of a sick joke. You sprint down, you stick your head on a bat, and then spin around in circles like 10 times, and then run back, and everyone laughs as you... It's pretty funny. Okay, you have plank position, hold plank position as long as possible. That got kind of boring. And then tug of war, which was all sorts of arguments with respect to, well, the ground over there is slippery, the ground over here is hard, you know. So the guys who actually won, which is in the top middle, weapons company, they're like, okay, we'll switch sides. They switch sides and they won again. They're like, so what is it? It's not the ground. And here's the Marine Corps birthday ball. If you notice in the top right, it's hard to see, but you have these, we had people from every generation, which is essentially individuals shown every generation that were of war fighters. So using the uniforms from that generation. If you go back from that one to the left of that, you have the POW MIA table we put at every ball, and that's to remember those who are not with us. And then you have the color guard, and then over to the left, everyone's marching in. Down the bottom left, you have those who have fallen, remembering the fallen, and then you have just a couple other pictures. So hopefully that gives you kind of a nutshell, kind of a whole picture of the battalion. So we're just one group of 1,000 Marines. But we have coordination with the city since 2003, and we appreciate everything the city's done for us, both Newport Beach Foundation and all the other elements like the Rotary Club and Balboa Yacht Club and others who have assisted to assist us with the whole Marine. Okay.
We probably have time for a couple quick questions. Anybody have a quick question? Back there, Craig? Repeat the question.
So how many battalions are there at the base? So we have 2 regiments, and each regiment has a battalion each. So, well, actually, each regiment has 4 battalions each, so about 8 battalions.
Anybody else? Quickly. Stan?
How many people get shot using live fire?
So we were, because we had done such a quick turn up, that was one of our concerns, so making sure that we focused on the specifics. We didn't have anyone shot the entire time. So, I mean, it happens from time to time, but there's, that again is the one-step drill. What we do is we look at what is the biggest point of friction, and then we staff it with an individual. So, squad leader, where should you be? You should be either where you can best create tempo for the enemy, against the enemy, or best where you can internally supervise the most dangerous part for your unit. And so doing that, they were able to work pretty well. So at nighttime it gets kind of hairy because some bullets you can see with tracers, some you can't. But we just worked the geometry of the situation, and it's worked out pretty well.
Wait, Mike?
Other than getting our car washed and tipping heavily, how can we support the 1-1 Foundation throughout the year?
Yeah, so,
Well, here, I'll
Okay,
field that one.
good.
He's the recipient. I'm on the 1-1 Foundation board. So how you can support? We fundraise all year long, and we provide funds for, and I should have mentioned this up front. So the 1-1 Foundation is a group that was created here in the city of Newport Beach. I think it was in 2004. Actually, John, are you still here? Heffernan? John? Councilman? 2003? Okay, 2003. I was a brand new city councilman. I remember voting on that, though, at the time. And so it was to create a relationship. We were the first city in Orange County to do that with a battalion down at Camp Pendleton. A number of other cities followed suit afterwards. But we provide support for the battalion, the 1-1 Battalion, through different means. We just did a turkey drop Thanksgiving and Christmas. If you recall in the newspaper, probably about a little over a year ago, there was a major incident down and some training before Lieutenant Grayson got there. Lieutenant Colonel Grayson, sorry, I didn't mean to demote you, where 12 Marines were injured in a Humvee accident, or a troop carrier accident. And so we provided actually significant funding, not only to the Marines, but to the families. We flew family members in, we put them up in hotels, provided rental cars, gas, food, things like that. So it got pretty costly, but luckily we had enough funds. So fundraising is a big part, helping out. You're welcome to come out and try some cars at our car wash. Sometimes we run short of a few Marines are out on maneuvers and things like that. But if you're interested in that, certainly Mike or anybody else, you can contact me or some of the other, if you're here with the Marine 1-1 Foundation, just quickly raise your hand. So you can approach those people and ask them how they can get involved as well. So you can see, and it's actually a partnership between not only it's the city, the chamber is actually a founding member, and I'm blanking on who's the third founding member organization. It's like the triumvirate, the city, the American Legion, that's it. American Legion, the city, and the chamber were the founding organizations of the 1-1 Foundation.
Is there an annual dinner, too?
We used to do the mess night, but we haven't done one in a long time, but we probably need to maybe do that sooner or later. Maybe when you get back.
Yeah, maybe when we get back.
Yeah, it's a little too they're leaving sometime in the spring, but maybe when they get back in the fall or early winter, will be something we'll do. Any other questions? Pam, you already have one, Stan.
Why would all that management change at one time?
Yes, so the question is, why would all the management change at the same time? So there are a number of reasons across the Marine Corps for schools get out in the summer, so they change out company commanders in the summer. Creating everything, making everything flat is what we're attempting to do. So only half the management changes out every so often, and there's an active push for that. This is just one of the years that it happened. So normally it would be staff would stay, all the commanders would change, and then the next year would be opposite. But that didn't happen. So just a confluence of events led us to a point at which we were changing everyone out at the same time.
I got a question, John. You fight wars with video cameras where they take video shots, the people in front and the people, you know, you don't have to be there to fight a war anymore.
Well, yeah, I don't know that would ever. So the question is whether or not you'd actually have to physically be present to fight a war, as opposed to fighting it from long distance. So regardless, one of the principles of the Marine Corps is you have to hold the ground, or you don't own it. So at some point, someone's going to have to go to a certain place. Now, how that goes to the 20th century mind and 21st century mind, there are some nuances to that, to how we can move it in the 21st century, that obviously all forces are moving towards, but I can't speak specifically to how that works. Is there?
Okay, well, I think we're running a little bit behind, so hopefully Lieutenant Colonel Grayson will stick around for asking any more last-minute questions. Thank you all for coming. Just a quick reminder, next month our guest speaker is Grace Leung, our new city manager, and Diane, I think you've committed to, hang on, Stan. And Diane, you've committed to March, so we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you all for coming, and have a great week.